The day I found out my husband had a mistress. I came home early one day, expecting a quiet evening with my husband. Instead, I found a stranger's perfume on his shirt, and a secret that shattered my world. This story contains themes of infidelity, betrayal, and emotional distress that may be triggering for some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. The perfect facade. My life with Daniel was by all accounts perfect. We lived in a charming two-story house on the edge of town, with a garden I tended to obsessively. Daniel was the kind of man who turned heads, tall, with a disarming smile and eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 promises. We'd been married for 7 years, and I thought I knew every inch of him, from the way he took his coffee, black no sugar, to the way he hummed off-key in the shower. But perfection is a fragile thing, isn't it? Like a glass vase teetering on the edge of a shelf, one wrong move can send it crashing. That morning, I woke up to the usual routine. Daniel kissing my forehead before heading to his law firm, promising to be home for dinner. "Love you, Elise," he said, his voice warm. I smiled, oblivious to the storm brewing. The first sign was subtle. His phone buzzed on the kitchen counter as I sipped my tea. A notification flashed. "Meet me at 7. No name, just a number. I frowned but brushed it off. Daniel was a busy man. Clients texted him at odd hours. Still, something about the message felt off. I didn't check his phone. I wasn't that kind of wife. Not yet. That afternoon, I decided to surprise him. His favorite bakery had just restocked their lemon tarts, and I thought I'd drop by his office with a treat. I dressed up, put on the earrings he'd bought me for our anniversary, and drove into the city. The office was quiet when I arrived, the receptionist giving me a polite smile. "Mr. Carter's in a meeting," she said. "Should be out soon." I waited in the lobby, the box of tarts balanced on my lap. 30 minutes passed. Then an hour. My phone pinged with a text from Daniel. "Running late tonight, babe. Don't wait up." My stomach twisted. If he was in a meeting, why was he texting about staying late? I left the tarts with the receptionist and drove home, the unease growing like a weed in my chest, the scent of suspicion. The next few days were a blur of normalcy laced with doubt. Daniel was his usual charming self, bringing me flowers, teasing me about my terrible cooking, kissing me goodnight. But the signs kept piling up, each one a tiny crack in the facade. His shirt smelled faintly of a perfume I didn't recognize, floral and sharp, nothing like my lavender body spray. He started taking calls in the garage, his voice low and hurried. Once, I caught him slipping a receipt into his pocket, a coffee shop I knew he never visited. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe the perfume was from a client hugging him. Maybe the calls were work-related. But the receipt? I found it later, crumpled in the laundry. 2 lattes, $8.50. Daniel hated lattes. I held that piece of paper like it was evidence in a crime scene, my heart pounding. One evening I couldn't take it anymore. "Who were you meeting at that coffee shop?" I asked, keeping my tone light. Daniel was scrolling on his laptop, barely looking up. "What coffee shop?" he said, his voice too casual. I held up the receipt. His eyes flicked to it, then back to the screen. "Oh, that. Just a client. Boring stuff." He changed the subject, but I wasn't convinced. That night I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Daniel slept soundly beside me, his breathing steady. I wanted to shake him, demand answers, but instead, I slid out of bed and crept downstairs. His phone was charging in the kitchen. My hands trembled as I picked it up. I knew his passcode, our anniversary date. The screen lit up, revealing a locked message thread with a contact labeled M. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow," the message read. My throat tightened. I scrolled up, but the earlier messages were deleted. Tomorrow. He had a client dinner tomorrow. I put the phone back, my mind racing. The stakeout. I wasn't proud of what I did next, but doubt is a powerful motivator. The next evening, Daniel left for his client dinner, dressed in a suit that made him look like he'd stepped out of a magazine. "Don't wait up," he said, kissing my cheek. The scent of that unfamiliar perfume lingered on him. I waited 10 minutes, then grabbed my keys. I'd never followed him before, but the image of that text, "Can't wait to see you," burned in my mind. I drove to the restaurant he'd mentioned, a trendy place downtown. His car was in the lot, but when I peeked through the window, I didn't see him at a table with clients. Instead, I saw him in a corner booth laughing with a woman. She was striking blonde, poised, her red dress catching the candlelight. They weren't touching, but the way he leaned toward her, the way she smiled at his words, it was intimate. I felt like I'd been punched. I ducked behind a pillar, my heart hammering. Was this M? I snapped a blurry photo through the window, my hands shaking. I drove home in a daze, the image of them seared into my brain. When Daniel came home hours later, I was in bed pretending to sleep. Good dinner. I mumbled. Yeah, just the usual, he said, his voice smooth. I wanted to scream, but I stayed silent, plotting my next move. Digging deeper, I became a detective in my own marriage. I checked Daniel's credit card statements online, finding charges at hotels and restaurants I'd never been to. One receipt was from a boutique lingerie store. My stomach churned. Daniel hadn't bought me lingerie in years. I started tracking his schedule. He was working late more often, but his office was dark when I drove by one night. I even called his assistant, pretending to confirm a meeting. Mr. Carter's out of the office today, she said cheerfully. He told me he was swamped with depositions. The breaking point came when I found a hotel keycard in his briefcase. It was from a place called the Sapphire, a sleek downtown hotel. I confronted him that night. What's this? I asked, holding up the keycard. His face froze for a split second before he laughed. Oh, that? From a conference last month. Must have forgotten to toss it. His lie was so effortless it terrified me. I didn't push further. I was too afraid of the truth. But I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. I needed proof, something undeniable. I decided to go to the Sapphire myself. The truth unveiled. The Sapphire was all glass and glitz, the kind of place that screamed secrecy. I went on a Wednesday, knowing Daniel had another late meeting. I sat in the lobby, pretending to read a magazine, my eyes scanning every face. Hours passed. Then I saw her, the blonde from the restaurant, stepping out of the elevator. She was alone, but her presence confirmed my worst fears. I followed her to the bar, keeping my distance. She ordered a martini and checked her phone, smiling at a message. I couldn't see the screen, but I didn't need to. My hand shook as I texted Daniel. Where are you? His reply came quickly. At the office, wrapping up. Home soon. I left the hotel, my mind a whirlwind. That night, I waited until Daniel was asleep and checked his phone again. The M thread was gone, but I found an email in his trash folder, a reservation confirmation for the Sapphire under his name for next week. Attached was a photo of him and the blonde, her arms around him, both of them laughing. I felt the world tilt. This wasn't a fling. This was a relationship, the confrontation. I didn't cry. Not yet. I spent the next day gathering evidence, screenshots of the email, the photo, the credit card charges. I needed to be sure before I tore our life apart. That evening I cooked dinner, set the table and waited for Daniel. He came home all smiles, oblivious to the storm about to break. Daniel, I said, my voice steady. Who is she? He froze, his fork halfway to his mouth. Who's who? He asked, but his eyes betrayed him. I slid my phone across the table, the photo of him and the blonde glowing on the screen. His face drained of color. Elise, I can explain. He started, but I cut him off. I laid out everything, the perfume, the text, the receipts, the keycard, the email. He tried to deny it, then deflected, then finally broke. Her name's Miranda, he said, his voice barely a whisper. It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen. A mistake. 7 years of marriage reduced to a mistake. I didn't scream or throw things. I just looked at him, the man I thought I knew, and felt nothing. Get out, I said. He begged, but I was done. He packed a bag and left. The house was silent after he was gone. I sat on the couch, staring at the garden I'd poured so much love into. The tears came then, hot and relentless. But beneath the pain there was something else, relief. The truth, as devastating as it was, set me free. I don't know what comes next. Rebuilding a life after betrayal is like tending a garden after a storm. Slow, painful, but possible. One day I'll bloom again.